Welcome back, students. In this lecture, we're going to review a bit about GeoServer in the big picture. So this is kind of the 50,000-foot overview. GeoServer is a type of software known as middleware. And according to Wikipedia, middleware is computer software that provides services to software applications beyond those available from the operating system. It can be described as a software glue. And middleware makes it easier for software developers to implement communication and input-output, so they can focus on the specific purpose of their application. Now, if you've taken my courses on WebGIS, you know that we can communicate directly with an enterprise spatial database using a server-side language such as PHP to return data to be displayed on a web page. And if you've taken my course on QGIS, you know that you can load tables from a PostGIS database directly into QGIS and work with them there just like any other type of data. And that can work well, but in some instances, GeoServer makes it easier for you to allow folks outside your organization to interact with your GIS data. It facilitates communication so that you can focus on your application. So let's look at exactly what we mean by input and output. So the inputs to GeoServer are your GIS data. Now that doesn't mean all of your GIS data, because you have very fine control over exactly what data is available to which people. But your GIS data serve as the input to GeoServer. In an ideal world, that data would be stored in a PostGIS database, because that's the most flexible option. And if you don't know exactly what that means, I'll just say that it allows multi-user access to your data and also allows editing access to your data. And has a lot of other advantages as well over traditional single-user types of GIS data such as shapefiles or geopackages. And if you want to learn more about PostGIS, I do have a course called Introduction to Spatial Databases with PostGIS and QGIS. And that course will teach you everything you need to know about getting started with PostGIS. I highly recommend PostGIS for storing your geospatial data. It just has so many advantages over shapefiles, especially in that it allows multi-user editing access. But if you want, you can use a geo package or a shapefile as inputs to GeoServer. And GeoServer also works well with raster data in a variety of formats. And you can even use a web service that somebody else provides to you as an input. And why would you want to do that? Well, it means you don't have to ask somebody else to provide access to their data to your users. Your users can just access your GeoServer services and never know that they are actually accessing someone else's data through you. Or at least they won't have to deal with multiple web service providers. They'll make their requests through your instance of GeoServer, and your instance of GeoServer will just pass that request through to somebody else's web service. Then GeoServer uses your data to output web services such as WMS and WFS, which are the two that we're going to focus on for this course. But also WCS and even WPS, which is a geoprocessing service. And why is this necessary? Well, the web services output by GeoServer are designed specifically to be efficient with large amounts of data and transfer easily over the internet. Raster files can be very large and will take a long time to load if you have to download the entire raster set over a slow internet connection every time. So GeoServer converts your rasters into tiled map layers so that you only have to pass the area which you are currently viewing at an appropriate resolution, and they get sent as PNG or JPEG files, which work well across the internet. Vector data can also be quite large and are often stored in binary files, which are not very internet friendly. So GeoServer will get just what you need and automatically convert it to a text-based format such as GeoJSON or GML. And those text-based formats work very well on the internet. So again, at the 50,000-foot level, on the left we have our inputs, which is our spatial data in the same kind of geospatial formats that we're used to working. They get passed into GeoServer, and GeoServer converts them into a web service in standard types of formats that can be used by many different types of clients. And this will be made very clear, I think, as we progress through this course. Now, you may have a lot of different data in a lot of different projects that's stored in a variety of formats that you want to use as inputs to GeoServer, and so you probably want a way to organize all of that data. In GeoServer, the highest level of organization is the workspace. And workspaces are kind of analogous to a subdirectory. It's common to have your data organized into workspaces in order to limit access to just what data each person is able to access. For instance, your company may have 25 different projects and 30 different users. And you could have each project's data stored in a separate workspace to make it easier to find. And then you can also assign users to projects so that each user can only see the data that they need to do their work. And you won't have to worry about somebody getting into data that they shouldn't have access to. So workspaces are conceptual constructs that are intended simply to help you organize data and access. And then inside each workspace, there may be one or more data stores. And data stores reflect the physical location of your data on disk. It may be a directory containing multiple shapefiles, a single GeoPackage file containing several layers, a PostGIS database containing several tables, or a raster image. And because it reflects the physical location of the data store also has to understand the type of format the data is stored in and how to work with that particular format. So that's where you get the details on that. And so it's a data store that has to understand how to access the data. And it's a data store where we go to configure GeoServer on the specifics of accessing that data. Then within each data store, we have one or possibly more individual layers. The layers are the same as a layer in GIS. Each represents a specific type of data and may contain styling information as well. And then finally, we have layer groups. And these don't fit nearly into this hierarchy that we see in the chart. But a layer group allows you to serve two or more individual layers that are related to one another and that often go together as a single layer group. For instance, you might have a single layer group that contains all of the data in your individual layers in a certain project, and this makes it easier to load your entire data set at once. You might also group two or more layers that often go together, such as nests and nest buffers. So thanks for listening. In the next lecture, we are actually going to start GeoServer and use the web administration interface as a client to send requests and receive responses from GeoServer.